Have you started working on your income tax yet for 2018? Oh, I know, taxes are not a fun topic, but I have to say, after having my own business for a couple years now, I've picked up a couple tips and tricks along the way that I think can help you have a much easier time during tax season. Now, I can't guarantee you more money or that you won't have to pay your taxes, but I do want to share just a couple of ideas to help make tax season a little bit less painful. So thanks for watching today. My name is Kristin. If you are new around here, I am a blogger at lifeofstones.com where we share a personal financial journey to help you budget your best life. And like I said in the intro, I just want to pop in today and give you some practical tax tips. I want to be clear, I am not an accountant, I'm not a CPA. I'm just here to share what has worked for me in hopes that maybe it can work for you too. So let's get into the tips. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is those of you that do own your own business. Maybe it's just a smaller side hustle, and maybe it's even your first year having your own business. I want to tell you that one of the best things that helped me was establishing a separate bank account for your business. So this way you're not intermingling any funds. Now, if it's a big business, you probably already have an accountant on retainer. They handle all of your work for you likely throughout the year. You're probably filing quarterly taxes, and I'm sure you're good to go. But those of you more like me with a smaller business, maybe it's just you. It's quite simple. You just go down to your local bank, you tell them what you'd like to do. They will get you set up with your own checking account just for your business. You can even tie a credit card to that if you feel the need. You can tie a debit card to that so you can access your money easier. The point of doing this is to ensure that you are not mixing your funds together between personal and business. I know in some situations it's okay to actually pay for things with your personal account. At least that's how I was advised in the past when I was starting my business. However, once our business was more established, it became a lot harder to keep track of expenses and the incomings and the outgoings, and it just made a lot more sense to have a separate business account. It doesn't cost you anything. Just make sure you go to a bank where you don't have to keep a minimum balance and you don't have to pay any kind of a yearly fee, and you won't have any issues opening up a separate account. Now, this way, your statement for your business account is going to be only business transactions. So it's going to be very simple for you to go through and account for all of your expenses, all of the money you've earned, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you at tax time. Also, going along with a business checking account, I would suggest you also open up a separate business PayPal account. So if you do any freelance like I do, or any kind of contracting work, sometimes you're actually paid through PayPal. That's how I receive all of the payments when I do virtual assistant work. I also receive different payments from my blog or different affiliate programs that I work with, and they come to me through PayPal each month. So I set up a whole separate PayPal account just for my business. That way, again, when I want to go in there and see all my transactions, I can very easily pull a quick report through PayPal, have all of my transactions, and know that these are all either expenses, donations, or earnings strictly from my business, and there's nothing mixed up with my personal in there that I need to comb through the entire report to see what's business and what's personal and take the time to split them out. That brings me into my next tip, which is take some time either throughout the month or at the end of each month to close out your month. Now, closing out your month can mean different things to different people. Again, I'm not an accountant, so for me, what I do when I close out my month is I take a couple minutes and I go through an account for every expense and all of the revenue that came into my business throughout the month. So the first thing I do is I set up a bunch of different email folders within my email account. This makes it really simple throughout the day, throughout the month. When I receive an email for some sort of expense for my business, if I'm busy at the moment, I don't even have to look at it. But what I do is I take a quick second and I toss it into my business expense email folder. That way, come the end of the month, I can get out my spreadsheet where I track my business expenses, and I can pull up the email box even on my phone. That way I can work on my phone and my computer at the same time instead of having to flip back and forth. And I just go down through the email box for the emails that came in that month with the expenses. And all I need to do is mark the expense on my spreadsheet and file it away. Now, some people actually will go through and print everything out and keep a paper copy. You can do that if you want. I feel like in this day and age, it's a bit of a waste of your paper and your printing supplies, but I did that probably up until maybe 2017, and for some reason it just made me feel better that I had a tangible record in paper I could hand to my accountant, I could hand to anybody in the event of an audit. Good Lord, I hope not. But in the event I was audited, I had everything together, and it just made me feel like I had more control and I was very organized. But that's completely up to you whether you feel the need to print out all your expenses as well. Now, I also want to mention this video isn't just for small business owners. You can do the exact same thing with any of your personal expenses, just like I do. I also have an email folder for all of our charitable expenses. So anytime I maybe participate in a GoFundMe campaign, or I make a donation on Facebook, or my church actually allows us to send our offerings electronically each month. So anytime I get an email receipt for one of those transactions, I quickly throw that into my charitable expenses email box. And the same thing, at the end of the month, I will also go through and add those to my personal expense spreadsheet. So whether you have a business or not, these tips are going to work either way to really help keep you a lot more organized throughout the year. And what it's going to do is lessen your burden at tax time. If you are able to keep up with this every single month throughout the whole year, then come tax time, all you need to do is total everything, and you have all of your expenses all ready together to give to your accountant. Or if you do your taxes yourself, you already have those numbers that you need to enter into your tax accounting software. The next tip is to make sure you are tracking your expenses throughout the year. Now again, this can be personal, business, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to use my business for an example again. When I purchase things, I'm at Target getting some office supplies, or maybe I'm out to a business lunch, or maybe I go to a conference and I have travel expenses. But it's really important that you save your receipts. If you're getting a physical receipt, make sure you save it. Find a dedicated place that you can save them throughout the year. And I actually just use one of these really cheap coupon holders from the dollar store. What I like about this is you can mark the months, and that way each time I get a receipt, I can stick it right in that specific month file. That way if I get behind and I don't get to close out a month or two, I don't have to take the time to sit there and separate all my receipts. They're already divided up by month, and you have them all in one place. Another thing that I find cuts down on a great deal of time is to circle your expenses. Now, if you're not using a separate business credit card or debit card to pay for your business expenses, then sometimes you might have business and personal expenses together on the same receipt. So just take a minute, grab a pen, circle the expenses that are business expenses, take a second to total them up and write the total on the receipt. Put it in your file, and when you close your month, again, you'll just take those receipts, go through them, and enter them on a spreadsheet for your expenses for that month. Along with tracking expenses, make sure to track your mileage. It blows my mind how many people don't know that they can actually write off their mileage for any miles that are driven for business. That also includes if you're going to the bank to purchase stamps for your business. What? That also includes if you're going to the post office to purchase stamps for your business, or if you're going to the bank to do some banking transactions for your business. You can actually write off the miles that takes you to drive back and forth to the bank and the post office, etc. If you're going to the store to purchase things for your business, those miles can be written off. You're also able to write off miles that you drive for charity. So for example, for my church, we do an outreach program where we actually go and deliver cookies to new people that stop by our church. And I go and I purchase the cookies, and we're probably supposed to make the cookies homemade, but I go and buy them. So I can actually write off the cookies that I purchase. I can write off the mileage to drive to and from the store to purchase the cookies, and then I can write off the mileage when I'm driving to the person's house to deliver the cookies. So make sure you track all these things. Now you also have to make sure to either check with your accountant or be sure to Google and see what the current mileage allowance is, as it does change each year, but you can easily find that online. Since I'm such a spreadsheet nerd, I just go in there and start a whole separate spreadsheet just to track my miles, and I set up a tab for each month, and I just write down beginning mileage, ending mileage, total miles traveled, and what the purpose was. So you always want to keep track of what you're driving for. If you were ever audited, you really are supposed to track the purpose so that they know what you're writing off is a valid tax write-off. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is your tax refund. Now, don't get mad at me. I know people get very emotional. Money can be so emotional and very polarizing, and it's okay if you don't agree with me, but I'm just going to tell you my opinion. And my opinion is very strongly that you do not want to be getting a large tax return every single year. Listen, I get it. I was in debt pretty much my whole life until this year. In fact, we actually did get a substantial tax return this year, but we are taking steps now to make sure we don't have a similar return next year. Now, let me tell you why. If this is not something you've heard before, the reason you do not want a large tax return is because it's not a bonus. It feels like a bonus because you're getting this large sum of money randomly in the spring. Maybe you still haven't paid off your credit cards from last year's Christmas, and I totally get it. That was me. Every single year, I prayed and prayed and prayed for a large tax return. We'd put it on our credit cards, put it on some of our debt, and then it was gone. Like that. It's not a bonus, guys. What a tax return actually is the government giving you a refund for taxes that you have overpaid throughout the year. Let me explain that. When your taxes are withheld throughout the year, the government is estimating what you're going to owe them based on your income and your withholdings that you have filled out on your paperwork when you were hired by your employer. They take out a certain amount of taxes from every pay. You know how that is. You gross this, and then you take this rinky-dink little paycheck home. So the rest of that money is going to the government. Now, at the end of the year, when you enter all of your tax write-offs, when you're filing your taxes, what that does is it actually lowers your taxable income. When I was younger, I had the misconception that if I was able to write off $100 of something, then that meant I was going to actually get $100 back in a tax refund, but that's not how it works. Say you earn $50,000 that year, your taxable income is $50,000. When you go in and you file your taxes and you have all of these write-offs, and those write-offs total $10,000, that lessens your taxable income amount by $10,000. So now your taxable income goes from $50,000 to $40,000. Once they process all that, they might see that you have now actually overpaid taxes. Meaning if your taxable income was initially $40,000, you wouldn't have paid as many taxes as you had already paid. Again, I am pretty much the furthest thing from an accountant, so my apologies if that was not a very good explanation. And if you are an accountant, feel free to nicely correct me in the comments. But the point is, a tax refund is what happens when you have essentially overpaid your taxes and you pretty much loaned the government all of that extra money throughout the year. And now they're going to give it back to you. Isn't that nice of them? If you owe the government money, for over a year, they are not going to loan it to you interest-free. So here's the thing. If you go to your employer and you lower your withholdings. Now, I highly suggest if you don't know how to do this on your own and this doesn't make very much sense to you, that you consult a tax professional or an accountant or maybe even your HR department, but somebody that knows how to do this the right way. Because if you do it the wrong way and you go the opposite direction, they will withhold even more money from your check and you'll have an even bigger refund at the end of the year. And the goal is that come tax time, you want to break even. You don't want to owe the government any money because who wants to pay in at tax time? Nobody. But you don't want the government owing you thousands of dollars either, because that is thousands of dollars that could have been in your pocket all year long. Who couldn't use some extra money in their paycheck each pay? Now, I know this can sound scary because nobody wants to get their taxes done and be told that you owe a ton of money. So bear with me here. My husband and I always kept our withholdings high while we were in debt, and we had a huge lack mentality. We were always so scared that if we didn't protect ourselves and have all that extra money taken out, then come the end of the year, we were gonna get a big tax bill and have no way to pay it because we were broke. Now, here's the thing. We have already worked through baby step 2 and we're debt free. You can check that video out up there. We are working through baby step 3. So by the time next year rolls around with tax season and we do owe taxes, it's okay. We're going to be prepared for that. We're going to have an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of living expenses sitting in our bank that we can easily pull from, write a check, pay our taxes, and move on. But I'll tell you what, that extra money that we get throughout the year is money that we could invest all year long and actually earn interest on. So if you are in debt, I completely understand if you're not ready to change your withholdings. But if you're out of debt and you're secure in your finances and you're working towards financial freedom and you have a emergency fund set up, I encourage you to sit down with somebody and try to check out your withholdings and see if you can make some adjustments so that you're getting the maximum amount in your paycheck each month without having to pay in a ton at the end of the year. Those are all my tax tips. I hope you found some of them helpful. Let me know in the comments what your process is. Do you keep up with your taxes all year long, or do you torture yourself come tax time trying to pour through a year's worth of information and get it ready to file your taxes? I hope you're able to take some of these tips. Again, just in case I wasn't clear the first 5 times I said it, I'm not a CPA. This was just practical advice from things that have helped me. This is not intended to be financial advice or tax advice in any way. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me with telling YouTube that you liked it, and hopefully they will get my videos out there for more people to see. I hope you'll subscribe and stick around, and have a great day.